You know, nearly every person I know has struggled with this. For me, that feeling of I should be further ahead by now totally dominated my early 20s. I was in constant angst and it was really painful. And in my work, I've heard this same struggle from people in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s and 60s and 70s, etc. I believe this is a sickness that we human beings have. And if you don't get a handle on this thing right now, you will continue to feel empty and desperate and hopeless no matter what you do or no matter what you achieve. Now, the good news is that there are only two things that you need to do in order to heal yourself from this sickness. And it's important to note that these are not one-time actions, my dear. These are conscious choices that you have to make each and every single day. Number one, I want you to adore your detours. So what does that mean? You gotta ask yourself, have you ever taken a road trip? Probably so. Sometimes you don't get to your destination at the time that you thought you would because you took a little detour. Maybe you decided at the last minute, you know what, we want to take the scenic route. You have got to trust the timing of your life. You have to trust that you made the best choices you could have possibly made at the time because guess what? You made them. And trust that every experience taught you something that you need to know right now.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I was making $300 a month. I quit on my business partner, and the thing that saved me was studying the stories of super successful entrepreneurs. So I hope that this story today helps give you the motivation you need because I still need it too myself. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Marie Forleo, and my take on her top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, break bad habits.
I don't think that there is any human on the planet who, at any given time, doesn't have at least one habit that really needs to get kicked to the curb. Well, it turns out that there's a simple 2-word fix that can dramatically increase our ability to resist temptation, and it gives us a better chance to make a better choice. Now, this is based on research done by Dr. Vanessa Patrick. She's a professor of marketing at the University of Houston who published her findings on the power of self-talk in the Journal of Consumer Research. She found that when participants framed a refusal as I don't, for instance, I don't eat chocolate cake or I don't eat sugar, instead of I can't, they were more successful at resisting the desire to eat unhealthy foods or skip the gym. In fact, they found that when it came to deciding whether to eat certain foods, saying I don't was nearly 3 times as effective as saying no and about 8 times more effective than saying I can't. Very interesting, right? I don't versus I can't. 2 teeny tiny words that can make a ginormous difference. And here's why. When we say I don't, we are empowered. We're determined. We are at choice. It's a tough, strong phrase like end of story. But when we say I can't, we disempower ourselves. It sounds like we're not allowed to do something by some outside force. You know what? We make ourselves feel deprived when we say I can't. And in essence, we make ourselves weak, whiny little bitches like, wah, I can't have a cookie. Now, what's even cooler, though, is that we can tuck this little trick into every corner of our lives. We can start making some clear, strong declarations like this. I don't eat Skinny Pop every night.
I don't look at my phone during dinner.
I don't unnecessarily zhuzh the MarieTV set.
I don't put the toilet seat down.
I don't refer to everyone whose name I don't immediately remember as chimichanga.
I don't show up to the set of MarieTV nude. Starting tomorrow.
I don't stay up until 3 a.m. watching bear attack videos, rubbing fried chicken all over my thighs.
I don't say no to new experiences.
I don't shave.
Pretty awesome, right?
Rule number 3, write down your goals.
Common sense isn't always common practice. And this is why we have to go back to the fundamentals sometimes before we can get to those advanced tactics, before we can get more subtle and into more nuanced things. So the habit is this: write down your goals. Studies show, in fact, a study by Dr. Halverson showed that we human beings are literally 42% more likely to achieve our goals if we simply write them down. And this isn't about magic. Well, there is some magic to it, but in a very literal sense, it's about focus. Vishen, one of the things that I did, I had this dream when I was writing the book, which by the way, I was horrible at writing this book. I was so stressed out. I was putting so much pressure on myself. I wanted so badly to make it as good as it could possibly be. And I was driving myself bonkers. And one of the things I did every morning, I didn't just write down my goals for the book. I had a very specific goal, which was this. I wanted, to the best of my ability, to set up this book to be a #1 New York Times bestseller. And you and I both know, because we have so many friends in the industry and so many authors, you can't control that, especially if you're doing it completely organically, right? It's one of those things you just kind of hope for. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But here's what I did, Vishen. I took that idea, that simple habit of just writing down goals, and I went further. I wrote down, I am a #1 New York Times bestseller 15 times every single morning in my journal for probably about 18 months. I still have all the journals in my drawers in my house.
15 times every single morning. That is so interesting.
Every morning. And it was using the words, I am. Right. So it was just, I am a #1 New York Times bestselling author. I am a #1 New York Times bestselling author. And my intention was around this book. Again, completely consciously knowing, first of all, that is an arbitrary goal. Second of all, there's a little bit of ego involved. But third of all, I also knew that if I could at least get on the list or maybe get to be #1, the most important thing for me wasn't about the title for myself. It was about the fact that that would get this book and this message into more hands. It would give it that extra little bit of credibility that would hopefully get this idea out. And one of the things I wrote about in the beginning of the book was this. A friend of mine who is the CEO of Shopify, I ran into him in New York while I was working on the book. And by working on the book, I mean stressing out over it. And Toby is his name. He's like, what are you working on? I said, I'm working on this book. And he's like, why are you writing a book? He's like, that's a huge project. Your business is going great. You have so many other things going on. Like, why did you say yes to this? And I said, Toby, you know what? If I were to get hit by a bus tomorrow, and I could only leave one thing behind, it would be this idea. If I can do a good enough job explaining this philosophy, this belief, and the profound transformation that it can spark in every human being, then I can be like riding off on the unicorn, my cosmic next adventure, going like, all right, I did it, peace. Taking it back to 2010. But that was the feeling I had. So, this idea of writing that down every single morning. And it was like 5 a.m., and sometimes I would be so blurry eyed and I didn't want to do it, but I did it every single morning, 15 times. And when the New York Times list came out the week after we published Vishen, I broke down in the ugly cry. I could not even breathe. I was partially exhausted because we were on tour and I was traveling around and doing just, a ton of stops or whatever. And partially just so humbled and so emotionally, just like an emotional release. So that's the habit. The habit, it's so simple. Write down your goals. If you want to supercharge it, if you want to take it to that next level and you have a singular goal that you're working on right now that is more important to your heart than anything else, write it down 15 times a day. We all know we have something called the reticular activating system, that part of our brain that helps us sift and sort what's important and what's not. And on the most basic level, writing your top goal down every single day 15 times will give you the focus that you need every morning to not get distracted by shiny objects and to do everything in your power to activate that goal and to help bring it to life.
Rule number 4, don't compare yourself to others.
Back in college, I had some nasty nights doing shots of this awful cinnamon-flavored liqueur called Goldschlager. It's pretty much disgusting. Now, when you compare your path with someone else's, you're basically drinking Comparschlager, which is like 100 times worse for you than Goldschlager. And I gotta say, that is not easy to do. Now, you know that you've been doing shots of Comparschlager when you're left with a major comparison hangover, which is what you're experiencing right now. Now, comparison is where all of this I should be further ahead by now BS stuff comes from. And I guarantee you, if you stop doing shots of Comparschlager to a very large extent, you're going to stop feeling all this angst and anxiety and hopelessness. They say comparison is the thief of joy. I say it's the hamburglar of happiness. It will not rest until it takes all of your self-esteem, makes off with it into the night, and leaves you doing the ugly cry in the corner. So you might be asking yourself, well, how do you stop comparing? It's pretty simple. You have got to put blinders on, because constantly looking to the right or to the left is actually what's slowing you down, and you need to focus on your own game. So if you really want to do a comparison cleanse, try this. Do a total social media detox and stop following or looking at people who you tend to compare yourself to. Don't pick up magazines or watch TV shows that portray some unrealistic ideal of perfection. Do not go actively searching for things that you know are going to leave you feeling upset. Now, I know that this takes discipline and it takes constant vigilance, but I gotta tell you, commit to this and I promise you will feel better than you've ever felt before, and you're gonna have more time and energy to make your dreams come to life.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, aim to be great.
Sometimes the only way to create what you really want means walking away from the sure thing you already have. Now, before we dive into this, I want to share a little line from Jim Collins, the author of the classic book, Good to Great. Jim says, "Good is the enemy of great and is why so many things don't become great. We don't have really great schools because we have good schools. We don't have great companies because we have so many good ones. And when we look back over a life and see if it's a great one, we don't see many because it's just so easy to settle for a good one." Now, if we unpack this a bit, we'll see that there's 2 main factors that keep us trapped in good land. Welcome to good land. Number 1 is comfort. Whether it's a certain amount of money that you're used to making or a warm body next to you when you're watching Game of Thrones, sometimes it's hard to walk away from the sure thing you already have because you're not sure if you're going to find something out there that's better to fill the void.
Marie, don't leave Goodland. It's good enough here.
Number 2 is what I call OPE, other people's expectations. Tough to ignore, but fun to dance to. You down with OPE?
Yeah, you know me.
You down with OPE?
Yeah, you know me.
You down with OPE?
Yeah, you know me.
Who's down with OPE?
Not this homie. Yeah, you know me.
The reason OPE is so hard to break free from is because we don't want to disappoint people, we don't want to let them down, and of course we don't want to rock the boat. But if you want to shift anything from good to great, you gotta be willing to shake some shiz up. Which is exactly what I had to do when I walked away from over $1 million in revenue. Yes, people were disappointed, and yes, people thought I was crazy pants. Little side note, if people think you're crazy pants, you are probably wearing the right pants.
That's deep.
So here's the story. Back in the day, I had 2 awesome programs. One was an annual conference that we held at Donna Karen's Urban Zen Center, and the other was a year-long mentorship and travel program called Adventure Mastermind. Both of these programs sold out each year with a waiting list. They were fun, they were life-changing, and they were like nothing else on the market, and they were both really profitable. However, I was having this inner tug inside that it was time for me to clear the decks and work on new projects that would allow me to change as many lives as possible. Now, I'm not gonna front, this was not easy to do. A, $1 million is a lot of freaking money, and B, I love what I do, and it was hard for me to disappoint so many people who wanted to take those programs but then wouldn't have a chance to. So I couldn't deny what I knew to be true, which was that it was time for me to walk away. And that's what I did. Now check this out. About a week or so after I decided to take those programs off the market, I got a call from Oprah's folks to be on Super Soul Sunday. Coincidence? Maybe, or maybe it was meant to be, because you can't have really amazing stuff show up in your life if you don't have room for it. So let's wrap this up with a few things to keep in mind. First of all, we always say that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if it ain't broke, it doesn't mean that you should keep it. Furthermore, things don't have to be crashing and burning around you in order for you to walk away. You can leave on a high note. Things don't have to get dramatic and they don't have to get crazy. Second, as Jim Collins said, good is the enemy of great. Complacency can be a curse, so watch out for it.
Rule number 6, embrace your ambition.
According to Frankl, he believed that one component of well-being is based on a certain degree of tension between what one has already accomplished and what one has yet to achieve. So in other words, who you are today and who you hope to become tomorrow. So if you're worried or ever have those thoughts that somehow you're a failure because you haven't achieved all of your dreams quite yet, listen to me when I say this. You are not a failure. That tension is a really good thing. So embrace that drive that you have. Embrace your ambition and the gap between where you are and who you are today and where you want to go and who you want to become over the next year and 10 years and so on. So when it comes to making meaning in our lives, Frankl shares 3 simple avenues. The first avenue is creating work or doing a deed. In other words, having a project that you're working on that requires your skills and abilities. You know, one of the most powerful stories in the book for me was when Frankl arrived at Auschwitz and he had the manuscript for a book that he was working on and he had it in his coat pocket. And when he arrived, they confiscated it from him, just like everything else. And he was heartbroken. But what he did throughout his time there is he started looking for these little scraps of paper and he was collecting them so he could start recreating his manuscript. And that really helped keep him focused. And there was this other thing that he shared that I really related to. You know, while I have a stepson and I have a fur baby, I don't have any biological children. And he was talking about this book being his mental child. And having the ability to focus on that mental child and how important it was for him to nurture it and bring it to life and put that manuscript back together was really a key in helping him survive that experience. The second avenue, by experiencing something or someone. So in other words, experiencing beauty or truth or goodness or love, whether that's through nature or by loving someone else. You know, Frankl shares these moments throughout the book. For example, when he was being transferred from Auschwitz to a Bavarian camp by train, how he and everyone was in this crowded train and they were crowding around this tiny barred window just to catch a glimpse of the mountainside and the beautiful sunset. And in Frankl's own words, he said, "We were carried away by nature's beauty, which we had missed for so long." Or the other thing that really stood out to me in the book was how much Victor connected with his wife through his thoughts and his imagination, and how much his love for her kept him fueled and really kept him going. And there was one passage that I want to read which sums it up. He wrote, "Then I grasped the meaning of the greatest secret that human poetry and human thought and belief have to impart. The salvation of man is through love and in love. I understood how a man who has nothing left in this world still may know bliss, be it only for a brief moment, in the contemplation of his beloved." The third and final avenue is the attitude that we take towards unavoidable suffering. In other words, our human capacity to transform personal tragedy into triumph. And this is probably the biggest message that I took away from the book. You know, Victor discovered through surviving what is arguably one of the most horrific experiences you could ever imagine, that he was able to find meaning and growth and a deeper sense of who he was as a human being as a result. And there was one really incredible insight that he shared, which was this: in some way, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning. We hear stories about this every day, right? I mean, where people face unimaginable challenges that could break them, but somehow they wind up growing stronger and more resilient and even more fulfilled as a result. So while there are many different schools of thought around meaning and fulfillment, I found Viktor Frankl's 3-part framework really speaks to my heart. One of the reasons that I love it so much is because I think many of us can get lost looking outside of ourselves for how to create a meaningful life. And what Viktor Frankl so beautifully teaches us is that each of those 3 avenues is completely within our control. So whether you're watching this over the holidays or any time of year and you're feeling a little down or you're feeling a little empty, I want you to remember this. Rather than searching for life's meaning, remember that you always have the power to create it.
Rule number 7, engage in the moment.
Here's the reality check that hit me like a ton of bricks. All of the joy and excitement and fun that we want in life never comes from external circumstances. It always comes from the energy and the attention and the consciousness that we bring into each and every moment. So Lori, I talked about this a lot, and if you really want to solve this problem, I need you to go read page 10 in my book, Make Every Man Want You. It's all about making isness your business. So what does that mean? Making isness your business means that you show up in each moment and you do this moment like you friggin' mean it. That means you bring your A game. That means you bring your full enthusiasm, your attention, your love to whatever you're doing, wherever you are, and whoever you're with. Why? Because all pain and frustration and annoyance in our life comes from resisting the moment. It comes from saying, this moment isn't how it should be. But guess what? The moment already is. So you only have two choices in life. You can either resist it and be freaking miserable, or you can engage with the moment and have a damn good time. In fact, make it an engagement party. You guys, I'm engaged with the moment.
That's impressive.
Okay. That's right. You got to love the moment and put a ring on it. Because the truth is, you can feel fully alive in any situation, or you can feel like total crap in any situation. It's not the circumstances, it's actually what you bring to them. Once I really got this, I was so much happier. I was performing in my jobs better, and ironically, everything that I wanted to create in my future started happening a lot faster.
Rule number 8, learn to rest.
Last year, I had a life-changing carb craving. Specifically, I wanted a croissant. And my first thought, I should walk around the corner to that cute little French bakery that I've been always meaning to try. It's one of those places that you probably have in your neighborhood where you walk by a million times, but for whatever reason, you never go in. So I walk over, and as I'm getting up to the door, I notice this little white piece of paper on the glass door, and it says this: closed due to vacation. Now, typically when I go to a store and it's closed, I'm usually like, wah, wah. But this time, I was actually like, OMG, closed due to vacation? It's a revelation. This is a party. There was no disappointment. In fact, it was super inspiring to me that someone could close down their entire business for an extended period of time just for vacation. So nobody died, they weren't going out of business, it wasn't renovation. Nope, they just wanted to take time off. So I got so excited by this idea that I forgot I even wanted a croissant. I ran home, called up my team, and I told them, we are closing down at the end of the year for 2 whole weeks. And we did it then, and guess what? We're doing again right now. We're closing down for the next 2 weeks. Now you gotta get, this was a pretty big move for me. Doing stuff nonstop is pretty much in my DNA. I mean, I've been working consistently since I was 10 years old. Yes, I've taken vacations, but this idea of completely closing down your entire company for an extended period of time, that's pretty radical, at least for me. I mean, I know they do that kind of stuff in Europe, but I'd never really seen it done here. And in this digital age, and since I run a digital company, I feel like there's this ever-growing pressure to always be on and always be responding and always be engaging and always be creating something new. But the truth is, from my point of view, this always on, always pushing, always going, it's really a sickness. And over time, it can destroy you. It can destroy your health and your creativity and your relationships and everything. And I mean, when it comes to your team, it can burn them out and take them completely out. And the more experience I have in this world, the more I see that personally, my soul craves downtime. It craves playtime. It craves time completely just off the grid. Now, if you're anything like me and you're super passionate about what you do, even just the thought of taking significant time off can feel scary. I mean, after all, let's say you take yourself off the grid and all of a sudden everybody forgets about you, or you miss out on some huge opportunity, or goodness gracious, your competitors get ahead. No! But here's what I learned when we shut our whole company down for 2 weeks last year. It was the best thing we've ever done. Everybody, including myself, came back so refreshed and rejuvenated. And the entire team came back with new ideas to take the company to the next level.
And I came back with a piñata and this really handsome sombrero.
Which we are totally making a product around. I mean, create a sombrero and a piñata you love. I'm telling you all of this because I want you to remember two important things. First up, great things happen when you unplug from technology and you plug into your real life. Now, as much as I love technology, and I really do love it, I have learned it is vital to take time to just let yourself be. Because if you're constantly listening to the noise of the world, it's impossible to hear the whispers of your soul. What's that? My soul just told me. That's a tweetable. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, this sounds great, Marie, but I can't take 2 weeks off right now, or I can't take a whole week off. That's completely fine. But ask yourself, can you take 48 hours off, or maybe just one day? And number two, the whole point of this episode is this. You get to write the rules in your business and your life. Question everything that you think you have to do. Really challenge those assumptions. Do you have to be on Twitter? Especially if you don't like it? Do you have to work on Mondays? Do you even have to wear underwear?
Do you have to wear pants?
That's it, Jams. Olay. But seriously, do not undercut your ability to craft a business and a life that you truly love.
Rule number 9, create your definition of success.
Your work does not equal your worth. Entrepreneurs are not better than non-entrepreneurs, and working on Wall Street isn't better than working as a waitress. There's no such thing as only in anything. Our true worth doesn't come from the work we do, it comes from who we are as human beings. Now, I know sometimes that's easier said than done, but if you want to be in charge of your happiness, you need to remember that. Number 2 is begin with the end in mind. So you said that you were feeling aimless, and this writing exercise, good for a creative writer, is really going to help you figure out where to set your sights. So it's based on Stephen Covey's idea, begin with the end in mind. And when I say end, I actually mean the end of your life. So imagine it's years from now. It's your last day on Earth, and you're thinking back on the journey. What kind of memories do you want to have? What kind of adventures will you have taken? Are there certain places you went, friends you made, and things you did with them? So don't just think about this, actually write it down. I promise you're going to uncover some pretty awesome ideas that might just be worth aiming for. Number 3, flesh out the details. So you said that you want to feel fulfilled and accomplished. Well, what exactly does that mean to you? I'd love you to get specific. Does that mean that you write every day? Does it mean that you publish a novel? Would you feel accomplished if you just got up and put on some underwear? I certainly do. I want you to get clear and specific and make sure that you include some things that you can do on a daily basis so every day you get to feel fulfilled and accomplished.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is stay motivated.
How do I stay motivated, especially after things have been really difficult and we're kind of still in this COVID stage? So I want to talk through some things that are both important to me, but as a coach, I want to give you specific advice from what I picked up from your question and your vibe. So first thing is self-care first. It has been a really difficult time and it has been a really difficult year, and that stress can take a toll. So one of the keys for me to stay consistently motivated is to make sure that I'm doing the simple things that make the biggest difference in terms of my energy, my health, and my cognitive prowess. What does that mean? Meditation is a must for me every single day. We've talked about this in the past. We even have an episode about my personal practice, and we have a free little download if you want to take advantage of that. We'll put it both in the video and we'll put it in the description below.
Exercise. I've talked about this so many times in the show because it is one of my favorite ways to make sure that I stay energized. It's one of the things that I do to make sure that my brain is operating at top capacity, and it's just really fun. But there's another element that I want to mention. Now, I am not a doctor and I don't play one on the internet. However, I try and take really good care of my health. And one of the things that I've noticed and that I specifically went through recently was just understanding and feeling like, wow, my energy isn't where it normally is. And you might remember that late last year, I had a pretty major surgery. So there was a lot of recovery with that too. My point is this. Sometimes we get into a specific stage of life where things that we're eating, things that we're drinking, just ways that we're living actually pull our energy down, make us more lethargic, and it makes it harder for our brain to feel energized, to be able to focus and concentrate. So this is a book by my friend Mark Hyman. It's called The Pegan Diet. I'm also reading another book by him that's called The Ultra Mind Solution. I would highly recommend that you check these out if you have any suspicion that, you know what, maybe the things I'm putting in my body could be creating a little bit of stress in my gut or making me not feel so good. And I will tell you, it has made a tremendous difference in a short amount of time in terms of my self-care, my energy, my ability to focus and concentrate and have really high energy levels, which speaks into motivation and getting unstuck and getting things done. Number 2, and this one is the one I really wanted to say to you specifically, Lori. So ambiguity is the enemy of execution. You talked about being a therapist. You talked about getting your coaching certification. So here's the deal, my love. I need you to decide what is the one single project that you want to work on at this particular stage and season of your life, whether it's for a month or the next quarter or the next 6 months, whatever the time frame is, and decide what that one thing is so we can get you moving on it. Anytime people come to me and say, I don't know, I just have so many things I might want to do, I know that they haven't decided the one thing that's most important right now, and they have no plan to execute on it. So since you mentioned that you have this fantastic little book called Everything is Figure Outable, I want to encourage you to go back to chapter 6, which is define your dream. Because not only do you need to define specifically what you want to work on at this particular time, you also need to have a stack of emotionally compelling reasons why that particular project is so important to you. So it has to be important to your heart. It should be important to your mission. It should be important to your bank account. There should be all kinds of reasons why this particular project, this milestone, or this goal has to be reached. And we need that to be very concrete and specific. So remember, ambiguity is the enemy of execution, my friend. So that is step 2. And now for step 3, I highly recommend this. Most of the time, people are just going like this. I don't know what I should do. I don't know what I should focus on because they don't have a deadline. Y'all, people, we need deadlines. They are awesome. I know sometimes it can create a little pressure and stress, but pressure and stress in small amounts and when it's directed at something important are really helpful. They help us get things done. So once you decide what you really want to work on, what is that specific concrete goal, then we need a deadline. In my own life right now, I'm creating something new that I am so excited about. And I have dates in the books for a few months ahead where we are shooting the thing I'm working on. So I've got a whole crew coming and I know exactly what's going to happen. That's a deadline that's very real. I can't wiggle out of it. You know what else that does? It helps me keep things simple. So when other people are trying to tell me, hey, Marie, I want you to come do this or come do this speaking engagement or what about this particular project? I'm like, no. Hell to the no. You know why? Because I have this clear, specific, important project that has a deadline, which gets me very motivated to get things done. One of the biggest challenges that most of us go through when we're starting to explore spirituality and discovering the whole idea of being super grateful for what you have is we can feel guilty about wanting more. It's almost as if, oh, I really have to just, be okay with everything I have now, which is great. But it's human to want to create. It's human to want to grow, to want to explore, to expand and take in more. And I just want to make a little note here. Wanting more doesn't always equate to materialism. It doesn't always mean toys. You could want to touch more lives. You could want to expand your ability to love. So wanting more in and of itself is nothing that you should shy away from. And I absolutely believe with my heart and soul that you can be extremely grateful for what you have and go balls to the wall with your dreams. So I have a few strategies to share with you that will help you accomplish this. In my lovely book called Make Every Man Want You, How to Be So Irresistible You'll Barely Keep From Dating Yourself, which, by the way, we're gonna give you a free audio download, Missy, just because you asked such a great question. I talk about a concept called This Is It. This is it really means that you treat this moment like it's the most amazing moment of your life. You look around in your world and you just make it the best it can possibly be. So in short, wherever you're at, that's where the party is. So if you find yourself standing in line at a bank and there's a really long line and everyone else is cranky, this is it. This is your moment. So you're gonna party with it. You're gonna hang out. You're gonna have a great time. Talk to people on the line. Really appreciate where you're at. But that doesn't stop you. The whole this is it mentality doesn't stop you from having big dreams that you're also gonna pursue. So it's a matter of just finding that balance, but you can absolutely do it. And don't let anyone tell you that you're ungrateful for what you have if you have big dreams and ambitions. So one more little note, and it's about complaining. This is a great way to just basically check yourself before you wreck yourself. Chickadee, chickadee, check yourself before you wreck yourself. If you catch yourself complaining, you've slipped out of the modality of being grateful for what you have, and it's gonna be really hard to really attract great things or be really ambitious or have the energy you need to achieve those big dreams. So use complaining as a bit of a barometer. If you find yourself saying, oh, this sucks, my current client sucks, my boyfriend sucks, blah, 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 not so good. Stop it, don't beat yourself up, but just get back into the grateful mode and keep kicking ass toward your dreams. Frame your dream. And here's what this means. We can't become what we can't envision. So when I say frame your dream, what I mean is I want you to take a picture of it in your mind's eye in vivid, specific detail. And then what I want you to do is translate that picture into words, meaning write down that big, unrealistic dream. And I know that you may have heard about the power of writing things down before, but the truth is most people just don't do it, which is so crazy because the research is conclusive on this. There was a study done by Dr. Gail Matthews that shows that you are 42% more likely to achieve your goals if you write them down. So what I want you to do is whip out your journal or hop on that keyboard and get writing. First things first, if you don't make the change right now, you're right. You will pass along all that self-doubt to your kids. If they see you as someone who's not willing to take risks, as someone who's not going to go for their dreams, you're going to wind up creating your own family of realists. And what I mean by that is people who are unwilling to go for their dreams, unwilling to be unreasonable. And here's the thing, Kristen, as you know, sometimes the best things in life come when we're being unreasonable. On the other hand, if your kids see you taking action and going after your dreams and being willing to embarrass yourself every once in a while, they're going to get the message that it's safe for them to take risks and to go after their dreams instead of just dreaming about them. Here's the other thing about what's missing from your life, Kristen. What's missing is fun. Just because you're in a slump, it doesn't mean that you've outgrown your house or your marriage or a job. All it means is that you've outgrown your tolerance for leading a boring-ass life. We human beings need to be creative. We need the adventure and the excitement and the variety that comes from creative endeavors. And when I was reading your question, that little line that you have about dancing, that you wish you could dance, you wish you could sing, tells me that you are creatively malnourished. You are starving right now. And look, you don't have to go audition for X Factor or do anything crazy like that. You can just start singing in your shower if you want, or you can take dance breaks at the office. I'll give you an example from my own life. I am a bit of a closet hippie, and in the past year, I've been starting to go to drumming circles. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I love it. Sure, I could have let the fear of looking stupid stop me, but when has that stopped me before? So many things in life can feel urgent, but they're not. So a few examples: checking email, answering calls or texts, even from clients, and social media. Urgent things demand our attention now, and they can get really addictive because we all want to feel wanted. Now, many of us also like a little hit of drama and adrenaline, which email and social and text and things like that happily deliver. And finally, things that are urgent often relate to other people's goals, not our own. But important things are different. Important things are quiet. There's no alarms, there's no drama. Important things often relate to our own goals and dreams, not other people. And unfortunately, it requires us to be self-starters, and important things are often easy to blow off.
Hey Marie, are we still hanging out today, or?
She's busy. Sorry.
Okay, I'll hit you up tomorrow, see where you're at.
We'll see. We'll see about that. Yeah. We have stuff to do. The first order of business, let's check Twitter. Cool, right? Yeah.
Now, Angela, I know you got clients to attend to and work that pays the bills, and sometimes, yes, that is urgent. However, you do have enough time to create your art and reach your goals as long as you work on what's important first and save what's urgent for a little bit later. Here's how to do this now. Before you get going each day, I want you to take a look at your to-do list, and you're gonna mark each task with either an I or a U. I is for important and U is for urgent. And then work on all the I stuff first and save the U stuff till later. Now you gotta remember, the urgent stuff is always gonna get done because it has to, but this method ensures that your important tasks don't fall to the wayside. And unless somebody is seriously hurt or your house is on fire, if something urgent tries to take your attention, ignore it until your important work is done for the day.
I think that particular story, I was around like 7 or 8 years old. So I was a young child and it was a little precocious thing to do. So at that age, the only thing I could potentially attribute it to, and this is, pure speculation, is a natural knowing. I think that divine connection that we all have to something greater than ourselves. I feel in many ways like part of my life is to simply be a channel and to listen and then to speak and share. And so the confidence and certainty, I also want to say this. I feel like I oftentimes embody radically opposing things at the same time. So while a lot of people may watch our videos or even read the book or see my newsletters or social and be like, oh my gosh, she's so confident. I need to be real. I'm also terribly filled with self-doubt. I'm also a person that questions myself. I'm also a person that sits back and goes like, I don't know, is this any good? Like, I don't think it's any good. Do you guys, are you going to really like this? So both of those things can coexist. I think that once I've had a chance to grapple with something for a little while and also like road test it, meaning I've had a chance to play with people, use concepts in real life, work with them, coach with them, see how things actually come out, how it impacts them and helps them create results, then the confidence builds quite naturally. So that happened for me when I started as a coach. Again, I knew internally this is what I wanted to do, but I was very aware that I was like, I don't know crap, right? Like I have to build up that track record over time. Same thing with like a program like B-School. I am very confident when we go into we only open it, once a year. When we go into our promotional period, I get really fired up, Vision, and it's not false bravado. It's because I'm like, I've graduated 64,000 people. And I've literally been approached in grocery stores from women who were on the verge of homelessness, who now run multiple 6-figure businesses. And they tell me like their children's education are completely funded. So when I get fired up about anything, like again, about this book, I'm like, no, y'all, I've road tested this. Please, for the love of all things holy, just give it a try. You don't have to believe it. Try it before you deny it though, because this is good. So I think any confidence that you detect, one, I just want to underscore, it was born from terrible insecurity that I still carry around with me now, and a lot of self-doubt anytime I'm starting something new or I'm stretching into a new zone. And then the confidence side just comes from also, I've been doing this now for 20 years. Like starting in 1999 and it's now 2021. I think that's one of the best things about maturity. And that's one of the best things about age is like, you're like, I've been around the block a few times and I've seen a couple things and I've fallen on my face. So it's all going to be okay. And I think probably one of the other things, again, not to push it, but Vision, I know you and I are both such fans of books. One of the byproducts of adopting the belief that everything is figure outable is what I'd like to call remarkable resilience. And also a bit of courage, because this belief, this notion that everything is figure outable is so a part of my cellular DNA that I literally feel unstoppable. Not unstoppable in the sense that everything is going to go my way, because it certainly does not. And not unstoppable in the sense that I'm like better than anybody else, but unstoppable in this sense that if there is something that I want to learn or experience or achieve or help bring about, I am 100% certain that if I'm committed to that, we will figure it out. We will find a way or we will make a way. And when you have that core belief embedded in you, which is what we teach you how to do in the book, it shifts everything. Because look at how much our world, Vishen, is filled with uncertainty and filled with fear. And uncertainty, that's natural, right? We kind of kid ourselves into believing we have some sense of control. But when you have this bedrock belief that everything is figure outable, when you believe in yourself that much, all of a sudden, you're able to stand in the tornado of uncertainty because you know without a shadow of a doubt that whatever comes down the pike, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how much you cry, no matter how much pain or suffering or confusion or doubt there is, you are going to rise and you will make it through. You know, it doesn't cost you anything not to believe in yourself. It costs you nothing to believe in yourself, but it costs you everything not to.
There's a prompt in here that I have used so many times in my life and so many times in my business that has transformed everything. In a business context, it's led to like multi-million ideas. And in a life context, oh my goodness, I can't even tell you how many things it's helped me shift. And it all comes back to tapping into that wisdom that I already have in my heart that I wasn't really aware of. So what you're going to need is a journal or just a notebook or a piece of paper. And I want you to give yourself at least 15 to 20 minutes of uninterrupted time with no cell phones around, no things ringing or dinging, no televisions, no nothing. I just need you to put yourself in a place where it can be kind of quiet, where you're really comfortable. Maybe you have a little cup of tea or cup of coffee or something stronger if that's what you're into, whatever floats your boat. And you're going to use this sentence stem to start to unearth what Ellen might really want to focus on in this next chapter of her life. So the sentence stem goes like this. Wouldn't it be cool if ... So I want you to write down on a paper, wouldn't it be cool if? And then whatever springs up in your mind and your heart, I just want you to write it down. So wouldn't it be cool if I lived in Hawaii? Wouldn't it be cool if I could solve world hunger? Wouldn't it be cool if I had platinum blonde hair? I don't know. I'm just making stuff up off the top of my head. But what this exercise does is it starts activating your imagination. It starts dusting off that ability you have to dream that I suspect may have been put on the back burner for so many years because you've been focused on so many other people, because you're so responsible and you're so loving and you're such a good person. But now, my friend Ellen, now is the time for you to rediscover what's in your heart and what would really be cool for you to focus on in this next chapter. And I promise you, if you play with this prompt, wouldn't it be cool if, and you let yourself dream without editing, without squashing something down because you feel like, oh, that's impossible, that could never happen. No, we don't do that in brainstorming. We let everything down on the page. I promise you, you will start to unearth something that's going to make you go, oh, that feels amazing. Could I really do that? Could I really be that? Could I really pursue that? And you're going to get like little tinglies. Arms will stand, the arm hair will stand up, all that kind of good stuff. But it will only happen if you give yourself this ability to play with this prompt and do it until you can't write anymore.
My question, how can I go about projecting myself as a writer first and a teacher second? What business steps can I take to make this transformation? Thank you for all you do, Christina. All right, so Christina, we got some good answers for you today. There's actually 3 very simple, very effective things that you can do right now to make that transformation and make it happen fast. The first one is speak it. So words have tremendous power. All you got to do next time you find yourself at a cocktail party, just say you're a writer first. So anytime you introduce yourself, talk about writing, talk about your books, talk about everything else before you start saying you're a teacher, and that's going to make a huge difference. So what we like to say is just do it. Just do it. Just do it, Christina. Number two, you want to write it. So all language that goes out into the world, think about this. What does your email signature say? What does your business card say? What about any social media profiles? The very first thing that you should have is ding, 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 writer. So if you don't have writer as the first thing listed on all of your written paraphernalia, go and make that change right now. I'll wait. Do it? Did you just do it? Okay, good. Number 3, and this is the most important one of all, is be it. You have to write as much as you can. So if you don't have a blog, I would highly suggest you start blogging. Perhaps journaling will be more your thing, but just really be the writer that you actually are. And it becomes pretty simple. If you're doing something habitually, you're writing every day, you're putting out blog posts, you're publishing more books, naturally it's going to be the first thing that pops out of your mouth.
When I was first training in terms of wanting to be a coach and becoming a coach, it was so much in terms of personal development work, and it was awesome. I loved working with clients. I was like 23, 24 years old. And not only was I helping folks try and get results in their own life, I was also doing this work on myself. And one of the things I realized was that defining myself as a coach, first of all, that never really quite felt right to me. It felt very limiting and narrow and not quite on. But I admitted that I had this dream to dance. Now, let's set some background. No dance training whatsoever. Never taken a formal dance class in my life. And it was like I was around 24, 25, which sadly in the professional dance world, it's a little over the hill to start, right? That's a very, very late start. And anyway, I finally got real with myself that I wanted to do this. And so I started taking professional dance classes in New York City. And it was amazing. I found myself coming alive. And this was great. And so I was taking class at Crunch Fitness, and my teachers were like, "You're actually really good." And I remember, Jay, I was literally like, "Are you talking about me?" I was like, "Wait, like, I don't have any technique." They're like, no, you should really consider start teaching. And I was yeah.
Wow.
Which, given the fact that previous to that, I had, failed on Wall Street, I had failed in the magazine industry, I had all these failures, and I was keeping myself alive, quite frankly, because I wasn't earning a lot of money as a coach by bartending and waiting tables. So the fact that someone thought I was good at something was that just little grain of like, oh, you are kind of good at something. It was great. Cut to. I said, all right, I'm going to try out and become a substitute teacher at Crunch. I'm going to teach these hip hop classes. I had no idea what the hell I was doing.
Cool. You're so cool.
So
love that.
It was just sheer passion, right? And I was just doing everything I could, just trying to make it through. One of my first classes ever that I taught on my own, someone came up to me after class and she said, "You're really good." And I was like, "Thank you. That means the world to me." She's like, "I work for MTV and we're working on a new show and we are looking for a choreographer / producer. You should come in." And Jay, it was a moment. Like, this was my first real class ever. Again, so like nervous and awkward and unsure of myself. So what came through my head? You're not ready yet. That it was like, I was even praying. I was like, universe, why did this have to happen? I am certainly not ready. I'm not good. I don't know what the hell's going on, but this is an amazing opportunity because I grew up on MTV.
Yeah.
So I couldn't say no, right? Because again, I could hear my inner clock going like, "Girl, you're not getting any younger, so you might as well say yes." So I said yes to this opportunity. And I remember standing outside of the Viacom building in New York City the day before, I was like, when I was about to go up for this interview that afternoon. And Jay, I wanted to throw up. Like, I was so nauseous. I was so not ready. Like, I was actually thinking, should I throw up in this like metal trash can, or should I like go inside and go to the bathroom so that I can clean myself up before I actually went to the interview? So I went into the building and I stood in front of the boss's door, the person who I was going to interview with. And I like shook myself out and I just said, "You are not ready, but you're going to start before you're ready because it's an incredible opportunity. And no matter what happens, you're going to feel good about yourself that you just went for it." Yeah. And I went in for that interview and I booked the job.
Wow.
And so it was this experience of me putting myself into kind of this whole world that I was in over my head. So let's be clear. I was working with dancers that had decades more experience than I did. They were talking about dance terms that not only could I not perform, I didn't even know what the hell they were, but I made my way through by showing up as professionally as I could, by being honest about my inexperience, but also by bringing my gifts that I did have to the table. And that one opportunity dancing and choreographing and producing for MTV, that led to fitness videos. That led to this increased learning curve where I got to learn basically 3 to 4 years worth of experience in like 3 months, which eventually led to me choreographing commercials for Reebok and then eventually becoming one of the world's first Nike elite dance athletes, all because I was willing to start before I was ready. And every single area of my life, I still do it in business to this day. There's so many things I say yes to that I'm like, somewhere in the back of my mind is like, you're not ready yet. And I'm like, that means I got to go. That means I got to strap myself in and go like, we're doing this. I will learn as I go.
Yeah.
So this idea of starting before we're ready, it doesn't mean that we're irresponsible. Doesn't mean that we don't do our research. And it doesn't mean that we override our intuition, that if perhaps, there was years ago, and I'll say this, that people approached me to write a book.
Yes.
And I legitimately wasn't ready yet, but it was because my focus was in other areas. I had other priorities. I knew from a deeper level, it wasn't about the fear. It was about trusting my own timing.
Yes.
But when you know you want to do something and you're clear that this is your path, using the mantra, start before you're ready, is an amazing way to beat procrastination, to leapfrog over your fear, and to get going. The average human lifespan is absurdly, insultingly brief. Assuming you live to be about 80, you have just over 4,000 weeks. Oh, I mean, did that hit you in the gut like it hit me? 4,000 weeks. I don't know about you, but to me, that does not seem like a very long time at all. Now, assuming that the vast majority of people watching the show right now are like you, meaning you are not an infant, that means you've already blown through quite a big chunk of your 4,000 week allotment. That is a sobering wake-up call. Am I right? And I think many of us have been experiencing what I call the great reassessment. I mean, we're still in this global pandemic, right? Our entire lives have been turned upside down, and many of us do not want to go back to the breakneck pace of the before times. In fact, I think a lot of folks are reassessing their lives and asking themselves some very important questions like, how do I want to spend my time differently moving forward? I mean, do I really want to be on my phone for hours a day, looking at social media, people trying to convince you how great they are? Do I really want to keep working these punishing 10 to 12 hour days, staring at a computer screen as though I'm going to get some grand first prize hustle trophy at the end? Or will I ever get to write that novel or learn that language or take more trips or spend more time with my family while they're actually still alive? I gotta say, from my perspective, the Great Reassessment is actually this magical window of opportunity to make some long overdue changes. So with that in mind, I'm really curious. Where are you in terms of the Great Reassessment? Has this been on your mind lately and in your heart lately? And more specifically, when you think about this notion that on average, in total, you get about 4,000 weeks to live, and you've likely already lived a significant portion of that, what specifically do you want to do with the time you've got left? I mean, are there some important dreams and goals that you really want to prioritize? Or are there some unhealthy patterns and habits or even projects or relationships that no longer deserve your time or your energy? Now, I don't want you to just think about all this, right? I don't want you to keep this in your head. I want you to actually write your answers down in the comments below, because writing it down is a part of what helps you make anything real. Because guess what? Whether you've got 2,000 or 200 weeks left, I'm here to challenge you to be courageous and intentional about how you use that remaining time. So here is your 3-part question for this week. Question number 1. What's the one thing that you're doing right now? Not because it's true to your heart, but because you feel it's expected of you. I mean, maybe you're doing something out of habit or obligation, but secretly you know that it's time to move on. So that's question number 1. Question number 2 is, what's one courageous change you want to make to be more true to yourself in terms of how you spend your time? What's one change that would make you feel great about how you're using the remaining 2,000 or however many weeks that you've got left? And then question number 3 is, what's one action step you can take right now to start making that change happen? So do you need to make a phone call? Do you need to have a conversation? Is it something else like signing up for a class or booking a trip? Doesn't matter what it is, but I want you to write it down, make it clear, specific, and actionable. I think all of us, when we love what we do and when we're passionate about something, we almost have this sense of guilt about being paid for it. We shouldn't be paid for it. We can't ask for money. Oh, I'll just do it this one time. Oh, I can't charge that much. I'm taking advantage of someone else. And so there's a lot of sometimes subconscious, sometimes just deeply lodged beliefs about our own worth and money and being paid for something that we're really good at. That is important that we investigate, that we challenge, and that we choose our own beliefs around money. Because money is this incredible thing, and a lot of women, a lot of people in general, but especially women, there's a lot of conflict. Part of us wants more, and part of us feels guilty or greedy for wanting it, and like we're bad, or somehow that makes us, I don't know, less spiritual, less soulful, less authentic. And I think that's total BS. I think money is amazing. It is the most incredible tool that you can use, not only to take care of yourself and your family, but more importantly, that you can funnel to ideas and causes and real problems in this world that take resources to help fix. And that's really exciting to me. And I think that the more that women are financially empowered, the more everyone wins. I mean, the studies have proven this time and time again, that when women get financially empowered, they take better care of their families, better care of their kids. They actually tend to have less kids, especially in the developing world. Communities become stronger. Nations become stronger, and really the whole global economy is going to come stronger. So I get really fired up about women owning what they're worth, getting very comfortable with money, getting very comfortable asking for it, and also becoming stewards of it. Meaning, how are they spending it on a day-to-day basis? Are they feeling like, you know what? I have enough right now to give to causes I believe in. I have enough right now to invest in my own education, my own business, my own future. I think those are really important issues. And I think as women, we can't shy away from money. We've got to really dive into it and be willing to swim around and investigate all the places that we have screwed up beliefs. And that's okay. All of us have screwed up beliefs about something, but with money, it's like, we've got to get this straight. It's vital.
You had a quote about this, and you said, beliefs are the hidden scripts that run our lives. And that's one of those, if you could get people to really internalize the fact that right now, your whole life is being dictated by the beliefs that you have.
Yes.
How do you help people unwind those beliefs? How do you help them replace them with more powerful beliefs? Because that is like a layer of the operating system that is so wildly underappreciated.
Yeah.
That's almost always where I start with people.
Yeah, it has to be. I think for all of us. I think the first thing for us to go to is that recognizing that beliefs are a choice and every choice can be changed.
Yes.
So beliefs are a choice and every choice can be changed.
Do people react like you're crazy when you say that?
I haven't floated that out enough in a big enough audience to see people like, I don't believe it.
I'm dying to know how people respond to this.
Well, let's see.
Because I really think people think that beliefs are recognition of truth. And that to try to change your beliefs is to try to deny the truth in some way.
Well, I mean, for anyone watching who ever believed in Santa Claus, right? Like you believed things, I'm certain that, I know I have, like you believed things when you were younger, even if you weren't a child, if you were a teenager or you were a young adult, that now experience or wisdom or something has shown you, that's not actually the truth. Anyway, my point is this. We collectively have believed things both individually and as a society over time that we've changed our beliefs. So I think that that is proof positive that our beliefs are a choice and those choices can indeed be changed. Obviously there is the phenomenon known as confirmation bias, which is the brain's it tends to reinforce what we already believe and then ignore information consciously or subconsciously that doesn't match what we already believe, which is often why whenever we're having conversations about really delicate topics, like it could be about gun control or reproductive rights or race, and they just evolve so fast because people hunker down in their belief bunkers and they're unwilling to see another point of view. But I do hold fast to the fact that all beliefs are a choice and choices can be changed. And here's what else is cool. You know this because you're so immersed in the world of personal development. You're someone who is so committed to learning and growth.
Over the years, I've read more personal development books than you can like just shake a tree at. And oftentimes, part of the exercise is like you have to go hunt down all of your limiting beliefs, right? So if you want to become this powerful person and be the best that you can be, you need to find every single limiting belief and then change it and do all these different things. Here's what I realized when writing this book. You actually don't need to do that. I have a time-saving tool because everybody needs to save some time and to make this really effective and efficient. If you adopt the belief that everything is figure-outable and you take that on for yourself, you don't need to go hunting down all your limiting beliefs because that one thing is like the master key that handles everything below it. It's almost like flipping a switch in your consciousness where then everything else becomes possible. So let's say if you're like, oh, everything is figure-outable, you bumped into something in your relationship that feels like it's problematic. You're like, oh, I could figure this out. You don't need to go necessarily looking for all those limiting beliefs. You may eventually uncover them and that's cool. You can kind of clean them out. But you don't have to do all this front end work. Adopt this one. It's like the master key and it'll help you achieve anything you want for the rest of your life. This is not like hype. I'm dead serious on this. The more you care about what other people think, the more they own you.
The more power they have over you.
Yeah, and it's like, I want people to win. That's who I am as a person. I want people to win. I want them to be well. I want them to be successful. If there's anything that I could possibly share that even a tiny nugget of what I share helps them become more of who they want to be, then I feel I have done my job successfully. Do I have all the answers? Absolutely not. No way. No one has all the answers. But I do believe that what we create in our company and the programs we put together and the things that we share help people find their own answers. So I don't care. I really don't care, because if someone is going to take the time to either make that comment or that judgment, my perspective would be that there's something in their own life that's not working that puts them in that position of feeling a sense of pain or feeling like they have to judge someone else to justify what's happening in their own life. I just don't think that gets any of us anywhere. I think one of the biggest ways that all of us can hold ourselves back is listening to that nasty little lie inside our head that says, I'm not ready yet. I don't have enough experience. I don't have enough credentials. Who am I to do X, Y, or Z? And then we just delay. And before you know it, months, if not years, have gone by and we haven't made any real progress. You know, this was true for me. You know, when I started my coaching career, one of the things I discovered was that I just didn't want to be a coach. I've never really fit a traditional mode. And from doing all the personal development work to train myself to be the best coach I could be, I realized I have other passions. I love spirituality. I love writing. I love digital business, which was very new in the early 2000s. And I also love hip hop and dance. And so when I was 25, I finally gave myself permission to go take my first official dance class. I never had an official class as a kid. I never took ballet or did any of that stuff. I just moonwalked across my mom's floor, right? And just loved hip hop music. But starting in the dance world at 25, sounds odd, but you're kind of over the hill. Because most professional dancers have been doing it since they popped out of the womb. And by the time they're 17, 18, they're going on tour with the hottest artists of the day. So the reason I'm telling the story is it relates to Start Before You're Ready. So I'd finally gotten up the gumption to go start taking classes. My teachers told me, they're like, you're pretty good. You should try and teach. And by the way, this was in a gym environment. So Crunch Fitness in New York City, that's where I was taking classes because I could afford it. And I started becoming a substitute hip hop dance teacher. And again, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just felt like I was out of place, but here's what happened.
That's crazy.
One of my first dance classes that I ever taught solo, when I got done with it, this woman walked up to me and I was still sweating. I was trying to catch my breath and she said, you're really good. I was like, thank you, that's amazing. She said, you know, I work for MTV and we're looking for a choreographer / producer. I think you should come in and meet my boss. Now, Ed, in that moment, I was so green in the dance world. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So my brain was going, I'm not ready for this. Why couldn't this opportunity come 2 or 3 or 4 years later when I know what the hell I'm doing? I'm better prepared. I could actually show up and maybe even land this gig. But here's what I realized. In my mind, I was like, you're already 25, which is over the hill in the dance world. And the only chance you're ever going to have to see if this could actually be a viable career for you is if you do this. So I remember standing outside of the Viacom building in New York City, wanting to throw up in the trash can because I was so nervous because I didn't feel ready, but I pushed myself, finally got up to that office, I knocked on the door, I just did my best in the meeting, and you know what? I got the gig.
So cool.
And here's the thing. That one experience of being hired as a choreographer / producer, by the way, I still didn't know what I was doing. When I was working with dancers that had 10 times more experience than I did, I was embarrassed because I didn't know all the terms. I didn't perform I did the best I could do in that moment, but there were a lot of things that I didn't know. My naivete did show. However, my growth and learning curve, man, it skyrocketed. And that one experience changed the entire trajectory of my career. It led to me eventually becoming a Nike Elite dance athlete, one of the first in the world. It led to fitness videos, choreographing commercials for Nike and Reebok and all of this stuff that would have never happened if I didn't start before I was ready. I was bartending at night, waiting tables, doing assistant work. Like I was basically working 24/7. You know, in the evenings and weekends, it was all, how can I just make money to pay my rent and put food on the table? And in the days, I was really working my buns off, trying to create content, create a newsletter, get coaching clients, actually start working with people. And when I got engaged really young, I was about 23 years old, and the guy was a sweetheart, but I realized pretty quickly I didn't want to marry him. This was not the person I was meant to spend the rest of my life with. But we lived in this tiny one-room studio in the West Village, and our money was already commingled. And so I was terrified because I felt like I made this huge mistake. Here I am trying to become a life coach, and clearly I have a lot to figure out about life. I knew I needed to get out of this relationship, but I didn't know how to untangle what I had created, this big mess. And so I knew once I broke off that engagement, I needed to actually physically leave that environment. That was the only way I was going to get to move on. And so I called my parents in New Jersey and I said, I hate to say this, but I have to move home. I was so upset. I just felt like a total failure. I felt like a horrible person for breaking this guy's heart. And it was a mess. Like I just felt like such a failure on every single level. The fact that I couldn't support myself yet, the fact that I had to go back to Jersey, the fact that I felt like I, did a number on this guy's life. And it was really humbling. But, at the end of that, it made me realize I'm more committed than ever to figure out what it takes to make my life work, and then also to be able to share those lessons with other people. So hopefully they didn't have to go through the mess that I created. If I could save people a learning curve, that was going to be awesome. And I think I was home maybe like 2 or 3 months, something like that. Emotionally, I had to heal and just kind of get myself resituated and, find a new living, a place to live in the city and get back on my feet. But it was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me because it got me regrounded in my own power and made me realize that if everything falls apart, which it sometimes does, there's always a way to get back on your feet. The most accomplished and respected people in the world stay humble. They're curious, they're open-hearted, they're lifelong learners. Don't ever feel like you have to overcompensate for imposter syndrome by becoming an arrogant asshat know-it-all. Not only do you not have to know it all, but you become extra trustworthy when you say these 3 magic words: I don't know. I consider myself a forever student, and I happily admit when I have no idea what something is or how to do something. But you know what? Everything is figure-outable. So not knowing doesn't make me a fraud, and it doesn't have to make you one either.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned in the last decade for you?
That things, first of all, keep getting better. I think in our society, especially as it relates to, as you get older, at least in my family, there was a lot of kind of cultural expectations like, oh, over this age, it kind of starts going down, or you know what I mean? You peak when you're young, and that's when all the good stuff happens. And for me, I feel like it keeps getting better. And I love that the best years are still ahead of me, and that all the stuff that I've been through, there's like all of these exciting new possibilities. So that's one of the biggest lessons. And I think the other one is that I don't have to stress as hard. Like, as a human being, I have a really strong work ethic, but I also tend to put a lot of pressure on myself.
And the other lesson I've learned is that I don't need to do that the work actually gets done more joyfully and more creatively if I don't add on that additional layer of pressure and stress.
I'd love to hear about kind of being a media maker and kind of the thought you put into kind of the message you want to show people.
Yeah, that's actually been a really interesting evolution because I am naturally a super goofy person. I'm naturally sometimes an inappropriate person. There's things that pop out of my mouth as being a person from Jersey that other people would say, you cannot say that on stage. You should not be talking about that as a professional woman. I'm like, but that's real. And when I have meetings with other people that aren't on camera, that there's no recording device around, that's actually how they talk too. So why are we separating ourselves to be like this very one type of person when we feel like we're out in public, and then in private we act a completely different way? I just think that's so hypocritical. And so for me, I feel like also the way that I best express myself is when I'm not trying to be anything other than who I actually am and how I would talk to my friends. You know, it's been interesting too with MarieTV. It's like, I'm a woman who enjoys clothes, and I'm a woman who enjoys, like, sometimes it's sassy and sexy clothing, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's very, you know, there's boxy things that I want to wear, and sometimes it's really casual, and sometimes it's a little bit more elegant. But those are all sides of me. And so it's been interesting because sometimes I'll put something on, I'm like, there's a little too much skin. Am I sending the wrong message to young women? But then I also have another voice in my head that says, but you know what? I actually like this dress. And it makes me feel good and I feel confident. So I think it's something that I don't feel like I have perfectly figured out, but it's certainly a conversation that is very relevant. It's very present in my mind. It's very present for our team, because what we want to do is create media that, first of all, the content is really impactful. And second of all, that we're being true to who we are, and for me, being true to who I am. And third of all, giving young women a different and diverse look at what it means to be successful, what it means to be yourself, and that you can show different sides of you and be taken seriously.
Indecision is a dream killer, and the opposite, what do we do about that? It's probably one of the things I live my life by most, besides the idea that everything is figure-outable, is that clarity comes from, yes.
I cannot wait for that.
Yes, we'll talk about that. That clarity comes from engagement, not thought. So one of the things that got me off my ass, right? When I was thinking about, should I be a dancer? Could I be a dancer? Am I too old to be a dancer? Oh, I think I am, was just getting into that friggin' dance class. That's what cracked me open to a whole additional career that, by the way, built the skill sets to what I do today. So my little kind of offshoot, my weird dancing thing, got me experience in front of the camera, teaching to big groups, leading, music. All the stuff that we've talked about in this entire interview built this incredible skill set that now fuels the brand that I have today. That's completely unique. That would have been if I just stayed narrow and focused on life coaching. I would have been, you know, that girl with like an awful pink suit and shoulder pads. Terrible.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video, because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Mel Robbins, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Fear is real, but I am going to share a secret weapon that I have used for years to beat every single fear that used to stop me. You're going to use my 5-second rule in combination with what I call an anchor thought.